Hey, good afternoon everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Well, I wanted to show you something on this little standalone system that I built a while ago. The Victron MPPT 130 just went into absorption mode a few minutes ago. It's at 100% charge, as you can see there. And it's that Power Queen 200 amp hour plus lithium iron phosphate battery that is now 100% full. And if you saw an earlier video, you saw I was letting this run a full-size refrigerator. I interrupted that test as I was reconfiguring some panels and adding a panel. And so for the past 4 days, I have been running this coffee pot, and I wanted to show you what that looked like on the Victron app. So we'll get that opened up and I'll show you. So I've got the app open now to that 130 amp Victron charge controller, and these first few days is when I was still running the refrigerator, but that's not what I was going to talk to you about today. But you can see even the last 3 days that I was running that, 2 out of 3 got up to a float, which is that darker bar there at the top of those two. And then on the 3rd day, that's when I started reconfiguring things. It was on its way. It was in absorption mode. It was basically full. But here's what caught my attention. For the past 4 days, I've been running that little Mr. Coffee 5-cup coffee maker, run exactly 4 pots every single morning in the past 4 days. And this is what got me, was these last 4 days. This one, this one, this one, and this one. As you can see on today, that light blue, it's in absorption mode now, on its way to float. It will certainly get there, and the only reason it's taken a little bit longer than these other 3 days is today has been really not a good cloudy day, so not great for charging. It's still going to get up there, and it did get up to full, but just a little bit slower. But here's the thing that really got me. If I look at the down here on the first line is the yield, and every single day, this one, this one, and this one, and this one, 330 watt hours, 330 watt hours, 330 watt hours, 330 watt hours. And I have done exactly like I said. I have just run that coffee pot, 4 full pots of coffee, and it takes it down to, oh, if I look on that battery monitor that I just showed you, it'll take it down to about 92% full. And then it shows exactly what it took to get this all the way back up into float. Float there, float there, float there, and float there. And you can see on the next line down there, it shows what was the maximum amount of wattage came in off those panels. Here, the first day, 332 watts. The next day, 135 watts. Next day 268, and today 317, however briefly that was. The next one is the battery voltage. Took it up to 14.20, 14.21, 14.21, 14.21. And the other thing, the minimum amount of this battery at the bottom line shows it on the first day at 12.77 volts. Now this, I want to say, is under that load of the coffee maker being on, is the only time it dragged it down to that. And it pulls about 670 watts when it's running with the heating element in that coffee maker. So 12.77, 12.79, 12.74, 12.74. The last 2 days exactly. So it's reading everything just so incredibly accurate. And just at a glance, I'm just loving the Victron for this reason, where I can just open up the app. I can see, yeah, went to float, went to float, went to float, went to float, and very, very little discrepancy. In fact, really just no discrepancy whatsoever from day to day. When that coffee pot is on, pulling 670 watts, and I look on the battery monitor, it's pulling, you know, about 60 amps, and that'll drag it down even on a full battery, you know, under that kind of a load, takes it down into the 12.7 range, just briefly, just for the few minutes that coffee maker is on, bounces back up, still got 300 watts of solar coming in. So there it is. I mean, this was just amazing to me, just to see that every single day, by doing the exact same thing, 4 pots of coffee every single day, and then shutting the system down, there it is, just spelled out so beautifully. And the only discrepancy is when it went to float, or when it went to absorb mode here and here, and those were just dictated by the solar day that was going on here. A little more cloudy these 2 days. These 2 days were a little better. In fact, they were identical basically, because I mean at the exact same minute those things were going into absorb, exact same minute they went into float. And the other thing I'll say about when this system does go into float, like it's about to right now, I can show you the status. So right now you can see right here that 200 amp hour battery is 14.20. It's letting in all of 1 watt as it lets it keep going down slightly. It'll go from 1 watt, take it to 0, let it go a little bit. Well, that's about as low as it's going to let it go while it's in this absorption state. But as soon as it hits float, that will go to 0, and that's where it'll stay till tomorrow morning. It just won't let any more power in as it tries to let this go down. But that battery's in such great shape that even if I cut the panels off completely now, it's completely full. I'm just letting it finish off its absorption charge rather. So a lot of you that use the Victron products know about all of these features. This is all very new for me, and I'm just loving it. There you can see when that clicks over to float, that light will turn green. That will happen here in a little bit. Everything on this particular system is working great. Been using the same charge controller throughout all of this, and everything on that particular experiment was this Power Queen, which has just been rock solid. And that's a fairly sizable amount of power to pull off of it while it's running, you know, 650 to near 700 watts. It's usually, like I said, about 670 watts pretty consistently with this particular coffee maker. But boy, I just loved seeing that last 4-day run. Everything just so accurate. Nothing else I have has been this accurate. So the incredibly helpful thing about the Victron is if you would be able to see, if you weren't sized appropriately, how much you were falling short, where you might need to boost up either your battery bank or your panels or whatever you're trying to doing. The Victron's going to quickly flush those things out for you. And if you were undersized, like I was a little bit originally with this particular system, I was a little bit undersized trying to run that refrigerator 24/7 with 200 watts of solar coming in. And now I have 300 watts, and that looks like it's going to be about what I need for that system. Over here, building yet another system. And I'll show you guys what I'm going to do with that, but I'm starting to get a little bit of a power wall thing going out here, having fun with it. So anyway, I hope you guys found this thing informational. I certainly did. And yeah, that graph just really was so amazing for me to see. just no fluctuation whatsoever, other than, yeah, those last 2 days, the sun took a little bit longer to get it up there, but other than that, loving it, loving it. Aloha, everybody.